I was in bed asleep at 7 a.m. when I heard a loud bang. I thought nothing of it because of the large cat tree I have downstairs that's always getting knocked over, so I rolled over and tried to go back to sleep. Not long after, my elderly cat comes running into my bedroom, jumps up on the bed, and tries to hide under the blankets. This immediately woke me up because that old fat cat hadn't ran nor jumped on our bed for years. Then I saw two men coming up my stairs. At that point, it felt like time stopped and somehow ran incredibly fast at the same time. I jumped out of bed and started screaming, "Get the fuck out of my house!" And I remembered thinking while chasing these guys through my house and screaming again and again at the top of my lungs that my voice sounds exactly like my brother, and I wondered how strange that was. I tackled one of them on my front lawn, but he struggled free and got away. I saw the getaway car and tried to keep repeating the license number, but it faded away in my mind as I was repeating it. I remember vividly being so mad at myself that I couldn't remember 7 numbers and how stupid I was for not grabbing my phone. Looking back on the situation, there are so many things that happened that I never noticed, like how I fractured my arm slamming into the wall at the bottom of my stairs and that I cut my feet up on the splintered wood of my front door. The adrenaline rush of a true fight or flight situation is something so strange it's almost impossible to accurately describe. The sense of time, not being aware of pain and injuries for hours, and the hyper-focus on some details but the complete loss of others. Luckily, I wasn't seriously hurt, and nothing was stolen, but I installed cameras all over my house the very next day. I was in college and had the only room on the ground floor. I was bartending, so I got home at around 3:30 a.m. I had just changed and gotten into bed when I heard someone fiddling with my window screen. I lived in a beach town, and I usually left my windows cracked open to hear the ocean as I fell asleep. At first, I thought it was one of my roommates who had forgotten their keys or something, but then I realized that they would have called me first. Flattening myself against the foot of my bed in the wall to look, I saw a guy in a black hoodie using a box cutter to cut my window screen. As he was lifting himself to enter, I jumped up onto my bed and kicked him as hard as I could in the chest. He fell onto the parking lot, hit a bike rack, and was knocked unconscious. I slammed my window shut, bolted it, and called the cops. By the time they arrived, he was gone, but they found him 2 blocks away. His bag contained zip ties and duct tape, and he had a record of sexual assault. The cops blamed me a bit for having my windows open. I've kept them shut ever since. At 6 a.m. in November of 1989, I woke to my bedroom window being opened. I was a young girl, 14 at the time. I froze and pretended to be asleep. After a few seconds or minutes, I realized that the man could not fit through my window. My bedroom windows were especially narrow. When he realized I was awake, he left. I then ran to the living room, woke my mother, and called 911. The man was caught in my neighborhood shortly after my call. I had to identify him, and he was charged with attempted burglary. He later pled to trespassing. When I came from school that day, I found my stereo missing out of my bedroom. It was the only thing stolen in the whole house. The second perpetrator, probably the same suspect from earlier that day, also left the gate open to my yard. My 3-year-old basset hound, Violet, escaped from the yard and was hit by a car and killed that same day. I wanted to add that as a young child, I had recurrent nightmares about a man breaking into my bedroom. The nightmare was short, just a man trying to get into my bedroom through the exact window that was used in my real-life experience. I would wake up every time after the man would open the window and try to get into my room. After my real-life experience, I never had that nightmare again. I was in bed upstairs, home from work because I was sick. Someone knocked on the front door. I didn't answer it because I felt like shit. A little while later, I heard a strange thud in my kitchen. My cats, who were laying with me, became alert, which made me nervous, so I went downstairs to investigate. As I was coming down the stairs, I saw a young man in my kitchen and another outside the kitchen window. I yelled, "What the fuck?" in a deeper tone than I normally have. I think that was some kind of instinct. They got scared and ran for the back door, which was locked. I actually had to explain to the inside guy that you have to do the top lock first. He shoved a chair at me, unlocked the door, and ran off with his friend. I wasn't scared in the moment, only afterward. In fact, I kind of felt bad for the guy while it was happening. He looked like he was maybe 15 and was scared shitless that someone was home. For some reason, a few hours leading up to the event, I was feeling uneasy and on edge. This was 3 hours prior, and I even consciously thought it was weird because I had a buddy over and was playing my favorite video game. But I just could not enjoy myself. Unusually, my father was also up very late watching TV in the lounge, and he too later commented that he felt like he was being watched. Approximately an hour after he turned into bed, everything happened all at once. We believe at least 3 men tried to quietly pull a window out of our double doors, French-type doors, to get in. But they dropped the pane, and when it shattered, everyone was alerted. Shouting, barking, and screaming commenced, and they then tried to break down the door to get in and grab anything convenient. Unfortunately for them, we had a large birdcage blocking the door on the inside, and they couldn't get in. They decided to make their getaway, and while doing so, one of them threw a brick at the window my father was looking through and broke that pane as well. While this was all going down, my buddy and I stayed in my room, door shut and locked. I grabbed a nearby skateboard, the only thing I had that could be weaponized. It felt like everything was happening very slowly, especially because I could hear but not see what was going on. For reference, we have a freestanding house that, at the time, had an empty plot next door. We think they jumped over the concrete wall as there's palisade fencing in front of our house. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to see more of our content, please hit the subscribe button.